Derrick Anderson is running for Congress in Virginia's 7th District. Derrick, how you doing, brother?
Good, Mike. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Really good. Man, my pleasure. Thank you for your service. Why is this part of Virginia, this makes no sense to me, represented by a Democrat?
Well, we're trying to flip that, Mike. That's what we're trying to do here in Central Virginia. But, this district is special to me because this is where I grew up. I grew up here. My mom owned several small businesses growing up here. She owned 2 restaurants and a gas station when I was growing up. That's actually where I started my career. I was sitting in the back of my mom's restaurant, flipping burgers, washing dishes, mopping floors, everything you can think of. Mom said, "You're not going to be a knucklehead as a kid. You're going to come and work for me." So that's kind of where I started. I went to high school in Cortland High School. Actually, we had our home opener football game last week, and it's awesome to be able to represent or have the opportunity to represent the district where you raised. One of the funny things that I find awesome is that when you're running around, when we're running around the district, I get the opportunity to knock on doors every single day, and I run into almost every single time, especially if I'm in Spotsylvania. We have about 10 counties in our district, but I get to knock on doors of people that I went to high school with, which is pretty cool. When you're knocking on doors, like I either get, are you Derrick Anderson that went to Cortland High School, or are you Susan's son, which is my mom? So it's pretty awesome to be able to run in your home district. But people in our district are just like everyday hardworking Americans that are trying to make sure that the price of gas or the price of groceries are down. We want to make sure that our communities are safe. We want to take care of veterans. We have 3 military installations in our district, including Marine Corps Base Quantico. So we're just everyday hardworking Americans that want to just make sure that our country's safe and that it's affordable to live.
Yeah, I'm looking at the map now. So this is like Fredericksburg.
Yeah.
It's in between Richmond and D.C. So I guess that's your answer for why it's a Democrat. It's close to D.C. As Oliver Anthony would say, north of Richmond. You're getting a little too close to D.C. for my liking here. Tell me, can we talk about some foreign policy stuff here?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we'll bring it back around to the district. We'll use some of your Green Beret expertise here. Let's start with what happened in Israel over the weekend. 6 hostages executed, where we hear, just shot in the head, reportedly as perhaps the IDF was getting close to some sort of rescue. One of them is an American, and I feel like that's not getting enough attention, that there are still Americans being held hostage, and one of them was just executed this weekend. Your expertise, what we've seen these last 10 months of the operation there, which has been, I would argue, less than successful in rescuing these hostages. What is your expertise? What should we know about that situation?
Well, I know, from what I'm gathering, and a lot of what you're probably seeing, Mike, the tunnel systems are a real threat, and that's something I've been talking about since the beginning, since October 7th happened. What we're seeing right now is, and again, in my opinion, is Hamas is now trying to say that they want to go to the negotiation table. All the meanwhile, we see what Iran and Hezbollah has been doing, right? So just within the last 2 or 3 weeks, we saw Hezbollah firing in the northern part of Israel. They've been firing rockets in there, piercing the Iron Dome. We see Iran continuing to say that they're going to attack Israel every single day. Meanwhile, some of the international community, including President Biden and Vice President Harris, they keep talking about a negotiation ceasefire. Let me just be quite frank here. I went overseas. I served in Iraq, Afghanistan. I was in Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, Bahrain. I've been all throughout that region. No one wants war, right? No one wants war. It's the absolute worst. But at the end of the day, what we're looking at right now is you see people continue, especially the current administration, are pressuring for a ceasefire negotiation, which we want there to be no war. But at the same time, we see what Hamas did on October 7th when they came across the border and went from Gaza into Israel, and they killed over 1,000 people. did and captured and took hostage, several hundred people. There's still over 100 people, roughly, that are still being held hostage. And then we see what Hamas did when they are, quote, going to negotiation table with Israel. They murdered these individuals, including an American. Kamala Harris is she's running for president right now, and she claims to have been in the Situation Room while this is all going on. So, at the end, this is how terrorists do business, right? They use fear to try to put people in a position. So it's a bad situation that Israel is in, and so we have to, as Americans and as a nation, have to stand behind Israel to make sure that they're being taken care of, making sure that when they go, when they're fighting these terrorist organizations, that they're being taken care of, that they've got the support that they need. So it is disheartening to see that Israel is, they're in the hornet's nest. They're in an area where people do not want them to be there, and it's very disheartening to see that during the biggest time of their need, people are turning their back on Israel.
Yeah, and I see just the boldness that they must have to kill an American. Mm-hmm. And know that we won't do anything in response. So that happened this weekend, but then also we got word yesterday of what happened in Turkey, where I saw in the video, like 6, but apparently 15 people got arrested by local police in Turkey for attacking 2 Marines. And in the video, they're grabbing one of the Marines and they put a plastic bag over his head. And then the other Marine, and it's a short clip I saw, I don't know if there's a longer one out there, but the short one I saw, this other Marine starts to intervene and tries to rescue his friend who has a bag over his head, and they're screaming, "Yankee, go home." So again, just like the boldness to do this to Americans around the world and know there will be no consequences for it. Is that the message, or am I missing it?
Well, I mean, Mike, look what's going on at our college universities, right? If you look at the international community, they're looking at the news just like any of us are. And when they see that places like Columbia and Harvard have pro-Hamas protesters screaming in the middle of our campuses, when you have college university presidents testifying in front of Congress and saying that they can't, they can't say that what is going on in their own college campuses are bad. That's an issue. That's a message being sent to the entire world. It's not good. It's absolutely horrendous to see what these people are saying. And, I think it's interesting too. Like I'm one of the staunchest, I'm a big proponent of the First Amendment and allowing people to say what they want. But just because you have the right to say something doesn't necessarily make it right. And I think that's a thing that we're losing within our country right now, is that you see these people saying death to America, death to Israel, in our own college campuses here in the United States, and there are people who are not willing to denounce that. That emboldens our enemies. It makes Iran, it makes Russia, it makes China all see what is going on here, and it allows them the opportunity to do terrible things throughout the world. And look, you mentioned it, Mike. So I was a Green Beret. I served overseas a few times. And I can tell you that I have Green Beret buddies of mine who just came back from overseas in the Middle East region, whether it be Iraq or some of these other Middle Eastern countries where we still have enemies trying to do harm to Americans. And they've been fired on. They've had these kamikaze drones been shot at them. And I think of roughly around 11 or 12 of them have gotten TBI, have gotten Purple Hearts, because of our enemies that have tried to attack us. Again, all this to be said is that our enemies are watching everything that we're doing in the United States. They watch the news just like everyone else does, and they feel emboldened to be able to do what they want against us, either overseas or here in the home. Here in my congressional district, a few weeks ago, we had 2 illegal immigrants of Jordanian descent and tried to go through the front gate of Marine Corps Base Quantico posing as Amazon drivers. I mean, I'm sure not a lot of people got to see that on the news, but guess what? The border crisis is absolutely real. We've got, several hundred people that are on our national terrorist watch list trying to get through the border in our southern border. And we had 2 illegal immigrants of Jordanian descent that tried to go through the front gate of Marine Corps Base Quantico. No one's talking about it. No one's talking about the fact that they get released on bail. And we're asking questions here in our district. We're asking who they are, who they're affiliated with. Were they affiliated with the terrorist organization? And no one from the Biden-Harris administration is saying anything. More importantly, I'm running for Congress. You mentioned it, Mike. I'm very open about that. My opponent doesn't say anything about that. He doesn't want to say anything about our border. He doesn't want to talk about our struggling economy. He doesn't want to talk about the fact that we're willing to debate him 6 times and go in front of the people here in the 7th Congressional District in Virginia and answer the questions that the people here in the district deserve to be answered. Instead, they're hiding. And so we're going to continue to be out on the streets and talk to every single person that we can. We're going to talk about issues like what happened at Quantico. We're going to talk about issues like what's going on in Israel. And people deserve to have these answers to the questions that face our national security, our border, and our economy.